If you're a serious Shopify brand, then the likelihood is that you've probably spent some time trying to identify ways to increase conversion rates and average order value and other metrics on your Shopify store. Conversion rate optimization is great and something that we recommend to most of the brands that we do work with. However, what I do want to talk about in this video is how increasing conversion rates isn't always the right answer. Sometimes increasing average order value can have the same or an even better effect on your business.
Okay guys, so here is a real test that we actually ran on a client of ours on a real Shopify store, and you can see the metrics that we can see here. We've had a negative 2.15% dip in conversion rates, which traditionally is a bad thing, right? But we've had this 11.99%, basically a 12% increase in average order value, and our revenue per visitor has gone up by about 10% as well. So the question here is, conversion rates have gone down. Traditionally, if you get less sales, that would be a bad thing, right? But revenue per visitor has gone up and average order value has increased as well. So is this a failed test or is this a successful test? Should we roll this out to the rest of the website, or is this something that we should bin off and not use again? Well, let's run through the maths for a second. So if we go over here, and we say negative 2.15 CVR plus 12% AOV, let's run a quick example. Let's say that right now you run a Shopify store with conversion rates of 1%. So you have 1% CVR. And let's say that your AOV is, well, let's actually do this. Let's say you get 1K visitors. That means that at a 1% conversion rate, you'll make 10 sales. And let's say per sale, your AOV is $100. So that means that you will make $1,000 in sales. Or let me put that in revenue. Okay. And I'll just put here $100 AOV. All right, so this is pretty standard, 1% conversion rate. You've got 1,000 visitors, that gives you 10 sales, and each visitor on average spends $100, so that's $1,000 in revenue. Great. Now, let's add a couple of zeros here just for what I'm going to do next. So I'll say 10,000 visitors, which will equal 100 sales, which will equal $10,000 in revenue. Now, if we apply that negative 2% CVR, that means that your new conversion rate will actually be 0.98%. Okay, so your new conversion rate will be 0.98% instead of 1% CVR. That means that your 10K visitors will result in 98 sales, not 100, and that will result in $9,800 or 9.8K in revenue. Okay, so you can see that we've had a dip here by 2 sales, which has decreased our revenue by $200. That's worse off, right? That's a bad thing. We don't want conversion rates to go down. However, if conversion rates went down by 2%, but at the same time, our average order value went up, just to make the maths easier, I'm going to say 10%. In the example I just gave, it was actually 12%, but just to make the maths easier, I'll say 10%. That means that our AOV is now $110, which means that if we take this equation here, put it down here, we still have 10,000 visitors, so that still produces 98 sales. But now we end up with, let me pull up my calculator so I don't make a fool of myself. If we do 98 times by 110, that's $10,780. So $10,780. That means that even though our conversion rates decreased, our revenue went from $10,000 to $10,780. So that means that we produced a $780 increase in revenue, or a 7.8% increase in revenue, which means that our overall revenue increased even though our conversion rates decreased. And so when we ask the question, was this a successful test? The answer is yes, because our revenue per visitor increased, which means that if we're generating more revenue per visitor, then that means that overall our revenue has increased, our profitability has increased as well, because we're getting more out of the same. And so this type of test is successful, and it means that conversion rates are important. Obviously, if you can double your conversion rates, that's definitely something that you should do. But what you also have to be aware of is that conversion rates aren't everything. They're important, but they're not everything. And if you do run a test or you do something and you're thinking, well, I don't know if that will have a great impact on my conversion rates, well, think about your average order value. Because if your average order value goes up enough, it can counteract the decrease in conversion rates to the point that you would actually be better off. And I want to talk about something else here as well, because this is all great, like from a revenue point of view, but you also want to talk about profitability here, right? Because let's say, for example, to post on average, to post something to ship something to a customer costs, let's say shipping equals $50. Well, actually, that's pretty high. Let's say $10. And let's say our COGS, which is cost of goods sold, and I'm deducting shipping from this, let's say that is $50. So on average, it costs us, should we say $60 to send an item? Let me move that away. $60 to send an item, which means that our profit on average is $40, right? Now, if we were to increase AOV by 10%, and we were to go from $100 AOV to 110 and maintain this as a fixed cost, then that would mean that our profit margins would go from 40 to 50 now, which means that we went from 40% profit to 50% profit, which means, oops, 50% profit, which means that even though we experienced a 7.8% increase in revenue, we also experienced a 20% increase in profit, because you are fulfilling more product, but to the same amount of people, which cuts down costs. Because if you have, let's say, 2 products to sell and you sell them to 2 people, you have to pay to deliver that product to 2 different people. Whereas if you sell both of those products for the same price, but to one person, now you only pay for shipping once. You only pay to deliver that product once, or products once. And that's really what I want you guys to think of here as well, because it's not, increasing revenue is definitely not a bad thing to do. You should increase revenue. And usually with more revenue comes not necessarily higher profit margins, but you do have more overall profit. At the end of the day, there's more money in the bank account. However, these types of hacks, these types of optimizations don't just increase revenue, they also increase profit by a much greater degree. And so I would rather sell something for $100,000 to one person than sell something for $1,000 to 100 people, because then I have 100 people to worry about fulfilling on. Whereas if I sell it to one person, I've only got one person to worry about fulfilling on. And so that's something to take away as well. So I just wanted to run through that. AOV is super important, conversion rates are also super important, but sometimes AOV is a bit more important than conversion rates. Hope that helps. We have some links in the description if you guys would like help on your Shopify store. Otherwise, wishing you all the best.